I'm Jess Dakotas.
And I'm Nick Colziel. Welcome to That Sounds Terrifying, the podcast where we share terrifying stories, we share listener experiences, and we visit virtually some of the most haunted places in the United States and the world.
Hello and welcome back to That Sounds Terrifying. Today we have stories from Nick, and I'm very excited to hear them. And then if we have time at the end, I'll share a little something as well. And if not, then we'll just keep you on your toes for next time.
Yeah, we'll keep you on your toes. I love that. It's funny, we've been talking about a variety of different things, and actually something in your stories last week sort of triggered me and remembering like the this experience. So I have two stories, one shorter than the other, and they're both about the same place. And I want to kind of give a little background on this place. So when I was growing up, there were these like woods behind houses in my neighborhood, and it was sort of inaccessible because you had to cut through a dirt driveway and then down a dirt path that was through this vacant lot. And it's kind of two really unique things about the area in this woods. The first thing was there was like bamboo, and it was located kind of like right before you got into the thick of the woods. It was just this sort of almost like a fence and with a little path that you can get through. It's like a gated area. And like basically years ago, somebody had like threw some like bamboo shoots in the ground, and they just literally went everywhere in this guy's kind of like sort of his backyard. And when you were like walking through it, it almost felt like you're in a totally different country. So it made it like a super terrific place for like teen kids to kind of play manhunt and like ghost in the graveyard and like army, all those kinds of things. So the other unique thing about the woods was it had this sort of dirt bike like obstacle course for BMX bikes, which were like a huge thing when I was growing up, going out and doing like some sweet jumps, like Napoleon Dynamite, sweet jumps,
You ever take it
you
off any
know.
sweet
And
jumps?
so you kind of go through this driveway through this vacant lot and then into the woods, like as you pass the bamboo. Um, and then it was also a little creepy because there was like signs of other people that had been there over the years, like, old chairs, the broken bottles, and like someone had left a shopping cart there. And like, where did you get a shopping cart from? Because there's like no stores within miles of this place. It's just like, we brought a shopping cart. Um, so anyways, two things happened. And so I'll kind of jump into the two stories. So here's story number one.
Just be careful jumping.
Careful jumping. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm clumsy. Thanks. All right. So the first one was when like it was kind of in the beginning when we first found the woods. So when I was younger, around 11 or 12, Jack, Bobby, and Mike, my good friends, got together to hang out. And it's the beginning of the summer. It's that magical time because school had ended and you felt like so free, like the whole world is ahead of you, right? So somebody shouted out, like, let's go to the woods. And we all thought it was like an awesome idea. So we grabbed our bikes and we raced over to the vacant lot, down the dirt path through the bamboo, and excited to do all the jumps and obstacles. We had literally just discovered this place because a friend of mine's brother kind of told us about it. So we were excited because this is the first time we were there without anyone else. We were like king of the roost. And so when we got there, it was of course like amazing. And I was not like the biggest daredevil by any means. Like
No,
I
you.
was that kid that was like, I'm gonna do the jump. Okay, I'll avoid the jump. I'll do it next time. Okay. And then
See, that's
but
why I told you to be careful.
right. So at first, and then like got comfortable and I started going full speed and kind of challenging the other guys and like trying to get the most height, right? You got to be the jump. Of course, I did end up missing turns and ending up into the woods a couple of times, but never got really hurt that bad. So it's been probably a little over an hour going around the course, and that's when we kind of conjugated back towards the front of the middle of the woods where we're like, all right, we got to go home. It's time to go home. And that's when my friend noticed the man. And this guy was coming in from really the only way to get out of the woods that we knew of. And he's walking towards us slowly and methodically. And he had a mask on. And so, like, the hairs in the back of my neck stood up, like, this was not normal. And, like, he's just walking slowly towards us. And then we look down, and as he's walking, we see in his hand a gun. And so he's walking towards us. And this is the point in the story where, I realize that I am not a hero. I am also not the guy that can turn and run. I just scared Steph. All of us. We were just scared Steph, staring at this guy. He's getting closer and closer. And he got to about like 4 feet from us, and he started to raise the gun and point it towards us. And like something out of a movie, I remember we all kind of sort of huddled together, and our bikes fell, and like one of our bikes got like tossed. He like kind of tossed it aside, and the guy just let out this sort of creepy kind of gut laugh. And that's when my friend Bobby started yelling, Jimmy, Jimmy, Jimmy. And the man started laughing hysterically, took off the mask, and said, how'd you know it was me? So it was this jerk older kid that had saw us go in and thought it'd be really funny to come in with his BB gun and scare the living hell out of us.
Oh my God.
So that was like one of the first, I think it was the first experience that I had with the woods. It made us sort of nervous to go back, but of course, like, over the summer, we decided that, hey, this is an awesome place. Um, Jimmy's being a freaking jerk. Let's go back. Let's start doing things. So we started, going back. So, but that's the first story. So not paranormal by any means, but enough to
No,
scare
but
the hell out of
scary.
you.
And like the fact that he like pointed a gun, BB or not, is dangerous and terrifying. Like you should not do that. Don't do
Yeah.
that, kids at
Yeah.
home. Not never point a gun, fake or not, at anyone for any
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Um, that is very scary. So that other kid knew that that was Jimmy somehow.
I don't know
Like,
how he did to this day. Like, we've talked about it a couple times that he just had a feeling. And I
mhm,
think he recognized unconsciously the laugh because the guy laughed. And he's like, he was sort of like one of those delinquents that he lived with his mom. He should have been in college, but didn't go to college. So he was like 2, 3 years older than, yeah, out of high school, right? So he really wasn't a kid. He was a guy. He was a man, especially
ooh.
compared to 10, 11-year-olds. But he
Oh, that's
also,
so dangerous.
yeah, he also knew different time. The 90s, like, they have all those things on social
Yeah.
media now where the 80s kids were like this, the 90s kids are like this, and then today's kids are like whatever.
Mm,
Like now he would have been arrested, probably thrown in jail, attempted murder, all sorts of things. But
mhm.
then it was like we were too afraid to to tell anybody.
Somebody,
Yeah, it would have
nothing
been
would have happened
full.
if you did. They would be like, "You
Yeah,
need some thicker skin, kid."
stupid kids. And part of the cool thing about this woods is like we didn't volunteer that knowledge,
Mhm,
like because we weren't necessarily supposed to be there.
mhm.
We weren't ever like it's one of those situations like as kids you have this like you don't volunteer the knowledge, you don't let them know. It isn't like explicitly said, hey, you're not supposed to be here. So
Right,
it's like we're not violating any rules. We're still in the neighborhood, kind of a
right,
thing.
right.
Um, but this other story is not as like concrete.
Okay.
So um, so again, we're going back into the woods. So
Mhm.
um at night, during the summer, friends would get together and we'd set out for the woods. We again, I just said this. We were never really told we couldn't go there. but we never volunteered that we were actually in the woods. Played a lot of group games back then, and my favorite was Manhunt. And we used to play it like in the whole neighborhood, but if there's only like a few of us, it was better to have like a more confined and contained area. So the woods was perfect.
Mm.
I never told my friends about this experience, but it all started when we were planning to sleep over at my friend Jack's house. We had planned to get something to eat after school, and then we were going to meet at Jack's, and then we were going to go to the woods. But my mom reminded me that I had this commitment that I had to do, and I told him, "Don't worry, guys, it's cool. I'm going to go do this thing, and then I'll meet you in the woods. And after that, I'll stop back at my house. We'll go to the sleepover and all that." Um, so this was like the time before phones and beepers. And so when plans changed, you just couldn't get a hold of each other. You just either had to be there or, at home to get that phone call.
Right.
So I got back to my house and gobbled down dinner and set out for the woods. When I got there, it was just starting to get dark. I could see from the road into the woods, I could see through like the bamboo, but it was like getting that, darkish dusk kind of nighttime kind of feel. So when I walked through the bamboo, however, the canopy of the woods made everything like so much darker than it was. Um, and the weird thing is, like, at this point, I had been in this woods pretty much all the summer. Like, it was a comfortable place for me. But it was very silent. It was quieter than I ever experienced before. And even like my steps, like every step I took should have been making like, leafy, like loud cracking noises as I was shuffling along. But, you know, there was no sounds. It was muffled. There was no birds, no buzzing of bugs, and very little wind, if anything. So it was also very humid and heavy of a day, which was kind of unusual for the area. It didn't get humid too often.
Mhm.
So I call out to my friends. I'm like, Jack, Bobby, Mike, nothing. I remember feeling like even my voice didn't seem to break through enough. It wasn't traveling like it normally would. Just everything just didn't feel normal. And it was getting really dark. And that's when I noticed off in the distance an orange glow. It was that unmistakable, distinct flickering flames of a fire through the darkness. So I was kind of relieved. I'm like, cool, we're doing a bonfire. That's awesome. All right, guys, didn't know we were doing a bonfire. And then I'm like, waiting for a reply. Nothing. Bobby, Mike, Jack, nothing. So I walk towards the glow, and I'm actually thinking to myself, like, how did I miss this in the first place? It's dark. It's an obvious glow. There's crackling flames. Like, I shouldn't have missed a fire, especially
Mhm.
like a bonfire this size. So I got about 5 feet from the fire, and I noticed this stench. It was the most horrible smell. It smelled like something dead. And it was also like very obvious that the fire had been burning for quite some time. So I started to kind of like circle around the fire and looking on the outskirts of the darkness to see, like, is anyone out there? And at that point, the glow was letting me see pretty far out, and there was just nothing close by. So then I turned back towards the fire and I kind of looked down and noticed that all the leaves had been scraped away, and it was pretty clear. And then there was like drawings on the dirt, markings on the dirt. I didn't really recognize them, so I started kind of like circling around, looking at the ground, and the only thing I recognized was there was an obvious pentagram drawn like around with the fire in the center, and
Mm.
other little symbols inside. Like, again, I didn't really understand what they were. And as I looked in the fire, I could see things that weren't wood that were burning in there, and whatever it was that was burning in there was the stench. That was the smell was coming from the fire.
Gross.
It
Okay.
was it was disgusting. Like, I to this day have not smelled anything like that before.
Mm.
I have no idea what it was. So, um, I just remember kind of starting to feel a little bit like scared, a little bit fearful, and just confused as to like why this is here and no one is around. And that's when I heard the distinct sound of a stick breaking in the silence. And all of a sudden, it was like the entire life of the woods like returned. Like, all there was sounds, like it sounded like whispering. All right. And it could have been the wind, but it sounded like whispering all around me. And then there was this low growl, and it felt like I was in a freaking movie where like I was that dumb kid that's in the woods and a large dog or a wolf or something had just confronted that me. And I just full fear mode activated. I turned and like ran heading for the bamboo. It was so dark and my eyes hadn't adjusted that I slammed into a tree in front of my
Oh.
shoulder and went down. Like pain shot up. Like I remember it was, oh, this is so horrible. And I scrambled my feet and got back up to full speed. I made it through the bamboo. Like I made my own freaking exit. It like broke through. And there was like no sounds behind me. But I just was booking like someone was chasing me. And I reached the road and I stopped and turned around and it was just silence again. Couldn't see any glow, couldn't see any fire, nothing. So then, my mind is trying to like reason around this. Like there should have been flickering. I should have seen something in because I could see the black in the silhouettes of the trees, but I couldn't see any fire. So totally out of breath, but I decided, you know what, I'm gonna hurry over to Jack's house and like join in the sleepover, kind of yell at the guys for, not coming to the woods. So on my way over there, it was quite a bit of ways, like on the other side of the neighborhood. I started thinking, and I'm like, this was the freaking best, most epic prank that my friends have ever played on me. Like they totally got me, like these jerks, and I'm gonna have to go in there and they're gonna make fun of me. And this is just like, I'm never gonna live this down. So, I felt like I walked a little slower then. Like I don't want to face this. And I got to the door and knocked, totally ready to be like yelled at and laughed at, and was greeted by Jack's father. And he told me Jack can't come to the door, and the sleepover's canceled. Jack was grounded. In fact, all of my friends got grounded for some shenanigans they got involved with at the dinner that I was supposed to be at that I never ended up getting to. So they were all
Oh.
in trouble. They were all at home. None of them were at the woods that night. They weren't the type of kids like to sneak out and like gather or anything. They were just weren't those type of kids. I had been alone. Um, and I went back a few days later in broad daylight with a couple of my friends to kind of ride the trail again. And I was super uneasy about it. And the funny thing was, like, even one of my friends said, look, some idiot went through the bamboo over there. Like, it was all cracked. Some idiot went through the bamboo. I didn't say a word. It was me. And now, if they ever listen to this, they know it was me.
Yeah.
But I purposely sort of retraced the straight way back to the corner of the woods to kind of look at like what was left over.
Mm.
And I couldn't even find a trace of the fire.
Oh.
And it had been a few days later. Like I'm not saying this is all paranormal, but I couldn't find anything. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
like there wasn't like this exposed area. The leaves were all over evenly. It wasn't the fall, you
Yeah.
know. So I don't know if I just dreamt this up or like kids were messing with me. I don't know, but it was like a crazy experience, and I never went back to that woods alone. And manhunt was difficult for me in those woods. Like at least I was usually the first one to be caught because I was so freaking loud.
Yeah. I'd be too afraid.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings on the woods, just in general.
Mhm.
Because I feel like when you're in there, you never feel like you're alone, even if you're alone.
Yeah.
It always feels like somebody's watching you from the woods, and I'm always afraid that there's somebody, like, lurking in there,
Mhm.
like, waiting. Um, Kinda like your bonfire people that
Yeah.
that's just I don't know. I mean, forget that there's, like, coyotes, bears, whatever else, depending on what part of the country you're in.
Yeah.
Um, but then on top of that, like,
Yeah.
people scare me more. Um, and then you have, like, the supernatural aspect of it, which I mean, it doesn't really scare me so much, but I don't like that something can see me and I can't see it or feel
Mhm.
it. Or I can feel it looking at me, but I can't feel or get a presence for like what or not a presence, but like get a feeling for what their presence is, like if it's good or bad. You
Mhm.
know, not a
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of like, I was see that's the thing is like I was in Boy Scouts and I did a lot of camping. There's a lot of weird things that have happened and in the woods and weird sounds and actually when my wife, I think it was even before we were married, we decided to go camping. And I maybe even shared this on the podcast before, but we're we got to the campsite and it was one of those places where it's like you got specific sites that you have to go to. And
Yeah.
we purposely picked one like way in the back. So like we kind of away from people. And so we got there and it was like fall. So it was getting kind of cold. And it was late. So we just put up the tent, got in, like, and went to sleep. And so in the middle of the night, we heard thump and then like thump and then and I'm like
Like
what the
chewing.
hell is that? Yeah. And so I I opened the tent flap and like shine the light out there. And the most deer I've ever seen in my entire life, like 30 deer are like
Yeah.
all turning and going and
They
looking
look at you.
and
Yeah.
like staring into this flashlight, and one is like chewing and like an apple falls out of its mouth and like thuds and it like stops and I'm like we were in the middle of a freaking apple orchard. Like there was all these apples and stuff falling from the tree, and the stupid deer are eating these apples. But like again, like you said, the woods can be creepy in the dark, and you don't know what's going on. And you don't know what those sounds are. Um,
Hmm.
but this was just something different to me, and it was on Long Island where I grew up. It was right kind of in this town. It was a huge vacant lot that was wooded.
Hmm.
And it was hard to get to. Like I remember we did get in trouble a couple times from the neighbor when we had to sneak through their sort of their driveway to get to the other lot. It wasn't his property, it was sort of hidden back there. Um, but
It's
I
just
don't,
people get off my lawn. Like, what do you think I'm
right?
gonna do to your lawn by walking on it? Like,
You know what? Now that you said that, it was this poor old lady, and like my friends were so mean to her. Like I always sort of like avoided it and just didn't say anything, kept going, like ignored it. But I remember now, it's an old lady. Oh, the memories. But it was so different, and I don't remember ever like it was creepy, and I always was a little bit nervous being back in there, but I never remember the silence. I never remember the thickness like that again. Of course, I was
mm,
never alone. Again, I made sure, that I hung out
yeah,
with people.
right. If you're gonna get sacrificed, your friends are too.
Yeah, I mean, that was two different experiences in the same exact space.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's to say? It could have been, older teens or like Jimmy
Could
or
have been
whoever.
Jimmy, like setting up a fire, but it is weird that you wouldn't see it, and you should be able to see it from where you were.
Yeah, like they covered their tracks good if that's the case. And then like, um, I mean, back then at those times, that was like in the middle of like the whole satanic panic thing. So like,
Hmm.
and I remember some of like the kids at our school were just being stupid and like, drawing pentagrams everywhere. Oh, it's cool. Let's go draw a pentagram.
I
Um,
actually prefer that side of things than the other side of things.
right,
So it would be, I
right.
mean, like not like the satanic stuff, but just, I mean, it wasn't actually satanic. It was
Yeah,
just, I feel like that was more of a, you know, uh, what's a nice way of saying like a a poo poo on you sort of thing for the
yeah,
people that were like Satan, like
yeah,
be afraid, you're
yeah.
gonna go to hell, um, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That would like shove that down your throat, and so that was like Satanic Panic was um from that. It was born of that. Um, and having been on that side of it and grown out of it, I prefer the side of let's go draw a freaking pentagram, man. Like scare the people that are like, oh no, Satan, Lucifer, just I don't know any of
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Um, but I think that's kind of funny. Yeah, maybe it was Jimmy just messing around, and then he like covered his tracks. He seems like the kind of guy that had too much time on his hands if he was messing with little kids with a freaking BB gun and a mask.
yeah.
Like, He was
Yeah.
bored out of his mind.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like the hard part of it for me was how like, if you think about kids and stuff like that and they're playing this big prank, like just like where my mind went later on is like, oh, it's my buddies and they're being jerks and when I get back they're gonna make fun of me.
Sure.
Like I feel like they would have like as soon as the kid, like this little kid got freaked out and started running away, it would have been laughing or like, don't come back ever again. This is our space, man. That kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
So that's why it was just weird. And some stories just don't have any finality to it and they're sort of open-ended. You never know quite what it was, but that was the part that like I mean, maybe like the other thing that I heard about that area, and I don't even think it exists anymore, but someone had told me that like that's where some people would go to like do drugs and stuff like that too. And maybe they got freaked out and then they realized, oh, it's just some dumb kid,
Yeah.
and then let's scare the hell out of them, or let's confront this kid. And then I
Mhm.
freaked out, run into a tree, fall down, and leave.
Which would have been funny. I feel like you would have heard laughter.
That's what I'm saying is like I
Yeah.
like if I and I didn't really do stuff like this, but if I had done that to a group of kids or this kid to scare him out of his, I would have been laughing.
Yeah.
I would have been that jerk that said, oh, don't come back. This is our woods.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's
but
funny.
but yeah, those are my two into the woods stories.
Your wood stories give me ideas that I'd like to give our listeners for if you guys are looking for if anyone's looking for like other podcasts or TV shows or things like that, some recommendations. Um I've been listening to Bridgewater Triangle for I think it's like been 2 years. I hope that it's coming back. It's due for a season three, but
Hmm.
it's 2 seasons, really, really good. And it's about um Bridgewater Triangle in I think it's Massachusetts. Yeah, it is. And it all takes place in the woods.
Cool.
So definitely check out Bridgewater Triangle. It's really, really, really good. Uh there's the actor who played, if you've ever seen the show Supernatural, the actor who played Castiel, Misha, I can't think of his last name, but he's the lead character in Bridgewater Triangle. Just go give it a listen. Start from obviously chapter one. It's all obviously fictional,
Hmm.
but really, really good. Um, and the other one um, is if you were into Are You Afraid of the Dark? I brought
Yeah.
up Are You Afraid of the Dark on the show before,
I'm
but
cold.
yes,
I'm
that one.
cold.
But
Yep.
yeah, that's in the woods too. But
Yeah.
Watcher's Woods is
Mhm.
one that stuck with me forever. You know, the 3 missing camper girls that she's gotta find their whistles,
Yeah.
or the Watcher of the Woods will keep them forever. Um, so there's that one too, but yeah, and that's on Paramount right now. If
Hmm.
you have Paramount Plus, as on, you know, as an app, uh, all the Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes, well, not all of them, but a lot of them are on, um, Paramount Plus.
Very
So,
cool. Go back
yeah.
and relive the nostalgia.
Some woods themes since summer's coming and we all
Yeah.
want to, get back into the woods and camping and all that fun stuff. I mean, I personally don't want to get back to camping, but I know other people do. Other people like camping. It's not me. It's not me. Somebody
Mine.
asked me yesterday if I liked, oh, do you like going into the lakes? And like, I was like, no, any open body of water. Anytime I've ever gone camping, something bad has happened. I almost drowned in Good Luck Lake, like this
Good
thing that
luck,
like
Lake, and you almost drowned.
it's good luck getting out of there is
Okay.
what. Yeah, I guess it was like good luck that I didn't die.
Yeah.
But I almost died. It was a big thunderstorm and there was a big strong current and like the thing that fed into the lake
Oh
that
yeah.
we were canoeing our stuff over to um through the lake and then up a little hill area in the woods to camp. It
Hmm.
was bad. So yeah, thunderstorm, we tipped over. I got stuck under a tree trunk for like a full minute and it was
Jeez.
really scary. Yeah, I just retold the story yesterday, but it was traumatic and I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? Never doing canoes again, never getting a kayak, hate open water and camping. No, thank you.
Mhm. So you wouldn't
So
even go glamping, probably. Your idea of the great outdoors is a beautiful hotel suite, huh?
yeah, so like my idea of like I'm roughing it is if it's like a 3-star hotel. I'm not.
Don't no.
No.
That's another terrifying story that I could share.
Yeah.
But
It doesn't have a hair dryer. I'm out. Like I will not be in here.
Mm,
I mm-mm. Yeah, no, I know I sound like a snob. I can't. I really don't
no,
like I
no, I will not go to a hotel that is not recommended by someone after experience that we had. We call it the Blood Hotel. Uh,
Ooh,
it was not, we were on our, I'll tell this story really quick. It's not
tell
really
the story.
terrifying. It's terrifying in the sense of like hotel experiences. So,
Sure.
um, we were going to Cedar Point, and we decided to sort of take the cheap route because we got our family of 6 people, and trying to find hotel accommodations for 6 people is expensive. And so usually we stayed right on the Cedar Point campus and go right from there. But we decided we're going to stay at this hotel that was about 10 minutes down the road. And during the time that we had booked this hotel and gone on the trip, they had changed owners. And they decided to take the only room that would could handle 6 people and used it as storage. So they put all the stuff in there. And
Mm,
so the room wasn't available. And so we showed up, had the confirmation code and everything, though we don't have rooms. So they decided, well, we'll give you 2 rooms on the same floor. They won't be adjoining and whatever. And there was like what I would call a a nice hallway,
mm,
nice hallway, and then a not at all nice hallway, looking hallway. And he started walking down the not at nice looking at all hallway because it was also a holiday weekend. So like
mm,
everything was booked. And he opens the first room, and it was and I go in, and there's still trash in the trash can. There was
mm,
like crumbs on the counter. I'm like, this is gross. And then he opened the next room, and like I look at the sheets, and the sheets have blood spots on them. And I'm like, nope, refund everything. I don't want anything to do with this. Remove, like, so we left. But that is the Blood Hotel. So
yeah, that is the Blood Hotel. That's creepy.
yeah.
Ugh.
So now I ask, like, oh, do you have a recommendation? Even when I went back to Fredonia, I asked people, I'm like, do you have a recommendation? Because
Yeah,
so yeah.
yeah. I read a lot of like when I'm booking stuff, Travel Advisor and things like that. Just so I know, because I don't, you know,
Yeah.
and like the
Yeah.
hint of like anything with a hint of like bed bugs at some point, I'm like, nah,
No,
not doing it. Nope. I'll
no.
take a ghost. I'll take a haunted hotel over bed bugs.
Yeah. This place had like probably had bed bugs that had bed bugs. Like
Ugh.
it was hard. Like I had already kind of decided that I wasn't staying, but I'm like trying to check it out to say, is the other room, can we just all pack into the other room? Is it really clean? Does it look okay? No. So I guess we've given the fans a lot of different topics to think about. Like, like we've talked about the woods, we've talked about terrifying hotel experiences, and we do want to hear your stories, right?
We
So
do.
yeah,
We definitely do. And Nick and I were featured in 585 magazine.
yeah, that was
So
really
if
cool.
you are local, check it out because we're in it in the May issue. We went to the launch party last night, which was super great, and we
Yeah.
met a few people that have some stories that they want to tell. I did meet. I'll tell you this really quick snippet, which I thought was really kind of funny and
Mhm.
interesting. Um, I met this person, this guy. We were standing there, and he had the issue, and I was like, "Oh, what do you do?" Blah blah blah. And then we were talking, and he said, "I said, what brought you to the party?" And he told me, and then he was like, "How about you?" And I said, "I'm in this issue," and I showed him the page, and he said, "Oh, what's it for?" And then I said, "Well, we have a paranormal podcast where we talk about like ghosts and um, paranormal things of paranormal nature." And he said, "Oh, do you talk about aliens?" And I
Mhm.
said, "Sometimes, but it's not really our it's not like something that I really know about, right?"
Yeah.
You know way more about it than I do, Nick. But
Yeah, I avoid
he
them. But
yes,
yeah.
I try to avoid them as much as possible. So yeah, because it does, it freaks me out too quite a bit. But he was very adamant and very into it, so we might have him on the show. However, he said that he was like, "Have you ever seen a ghost?" And I said, "Well, yes, I have, and I talk about it on the podcast. You should listen."
Yeah.
So hi if you're listening. But
Rate
he
and
said,
review. Rate and
"I
review.
yeah, yeah. Right. 5 stars. It's a
Yeah.
5-star rating only.
Yep.
Otherwise, keep
Or go
keep your
home.
opinions to yourself."
Yeah.
Just kidding. If you have ideas for how we can make this better, by all means, email us. But
Yeah.
please don't rate it and ruin our rating.
Yeah.
That would be really mean and uncalled for, and I might cry. And if Nick
Mhm.
cries, I cry. It's happened before. Um, anyways, um, so he said, "I have," and he was very matter of fact, which I thought was kind of interesting because people don't usually like. I don't know. They're like, "Well, there was this one time, and then they kind of
Mhm.
think about it and they're not really sure. But he was very sure, which intrigued me. And he said, I was in my apartment in New York City, and I was um laying in bed, and in walks a ghost, and I screamed."
Mhm.
And then that was the end of the
That is
story.
the story, yes.
And I was like, "Tell me more." Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? So I said, "What did it look like?" And he said, "It looked like a ghost." And said, "Was it a male? Was it a female?" And he said, "No, it's just a ghost. Didn't have like any." It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, "But what does that mean? What does a ghost look like? Like, are you saying it looked like the white sheet ghost with the
Yeah.
hole for eyes? Like, what did it look like?" And he finally was like, "Oh, it was like a white mist or like a gray mist." Or you were
Mhm.
with me at this point, Nick.
Yeah, I kinda came in on the last minute. We're gonna get some more details from this guy because, like, I
Yeah,
think there's a good story there, it really is, so
I don't know. I think that was literally it. But he knows a lot about aliens. Like that, he didn't want to talk about the ghosts. He wanted to talk about the aliens. But he literally said like it was a mist. It was like a gray mist, and I said, "Holy crap, that's a ghost!" And ah!
Yeah,
That was it. And then he said it like faded away. The
yeah.
end. I just thought it was so funny because I was just trying to like pull the story out of him.
Mhm.
It's so
We will
matter of
get this
fact.
story, Jess, we will.
Yeah, he was like, "It was just a ghost.
Yeah,
It was just a ghost. Who
yeah.
cares? Let's talk about aliens."
Awesome.
So, so we will hopefully maybe we'll have him on and we'll talk about
Yeah,
aliens.
yeah. Are you guys ready for another alien episode? Definitely let us know for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I am. Again, that terrifies me a little bit more, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's getting more and more prevalent. So for sure. Well, is it about that time, Nick?
I think it is about that time, Jess.
I liked your stories, and hopefully our listeners enjoy our banter.
Mhm.
And aside from that, everybody, whether it's tequila sunrise or ghosts, keep your spirits up.